Die Welt steht vor so großen Herausforderungen wie nie zuvor. Wir begeben uns deshalb auf eine Mission. Wir ergreifen gemeinsam die Initiative. Wir versammeln die besten erfahrenen und jungen Köpfe. Wir vernetzen engagierte Unternehmen und Unternehmer mit den besten Studierenden und Talenten. Wir entwickeln in 3 Jahren wegweisende Projekte für eine nachhaltige Zukunft. Wir beschreiten gemeinsam neue Wege, setzen wichtige Impulse für die Zukunft und legen die Basis für den großen Wurf. Wir nehmen 12 Zukunftsfelder ins Visier und entwickeln Prototypen unserer Visionen. Unser Fundament sind dabei die 5 Kernwerte der Werte-Stiftung: Verantwortung, Vertrauen, Integrität, Respekt und Leistung. Wir geben den Themen, den neuen Ideen und klügsten Köpfen eine Plattform, damit wir wirklich etwas bewegen. The Mission.
Welcome to the mission, to our kickoff of Transformation Be Sustainable. 2 years ago, we've been standing on this very stage and have been launching our initiative, The Mission, in this very room, together with you and our great corporate partners, Handelsblatt Media Group, Deutsche Bank, PreZero, Bain & Company, and Deutsche Bank. And back then, we've been here, we had great speakers. Jochen Seitz was here, we talked to him. We had great teams, as you can see, engaging in workshops with you together, the corporates, and kicking off our very first project, Waste Be Circular, back then. And now I'm actually very happy, I gotta say, to be on stage again and see people. 2 years of Corona, I think I'm more than happy to see you here and do this actually in person and talk to you afterwards about our great ideas, about your great ideas, about the future. What have we been up to so far? We have been doing great stuff since then, starting with the mission in 2019 on this stage, Waste Be Circular. We did another project, Banking Be Sustainable with Deutsche Bank in 2020, as well as Sports Be Sustainable with FC Bayern Munich. Work Be Next with Scheffler, also in 2020. Mission 5, Mobility Be Urban with SEAT. Energy Be Empowered, our last mission with Techem and Unipa. And now, today, we're back here for Transformation Be Sustainable. Over the time, we've made great friends, great experiences, as you can see here. We've had to deal also with Corona. Our second program was going halfway through the project, digitally, remote, like I think you all have experienced. And since then, we had been going back and forth between working digitally together and coming together on the ground. And now I'm more than happy to be here and see your faces in real life. Do I have to point somewhere? There we go. As you can see, happy faces, happy people. I hope all of you have also felt that in engaging with us and so on. And what was the outcome in the end? Over these 6 missions, over the last 2 years, we've had 29 teams going through our program, developing great ideas. And actually 10 startups coming out of this, still working on their idea and trying to bring it to life. And I'm more than happy to say there are actually already 3 startups which are funded and going into the next acceleration phase. So today we are back, and with a special topic actually, Transformation Be Sustainable. Over the time, as you've seen, we have engaged in so many different individual projects about sustainable innovation. And over the time, we've learned that we need a cross-sectional topic, like this transformation aspect is. And this is what we will do today. We will look for innovative solutions that help organizations deal with the transformation to become sustainable. What we have here today my introduction. Then we'll have a keynote from Tobias Raffel to get more insights on sustainable transformation before we deep dive further. Then we also want to ask the corporates, what do they do in terms of their journey towards transforming their organization? And with COP26 ahead, what do they do here? What's their action? And then I think the most important part of today, we have again 3 teams pitching their initial ideas on how they can help organizations transform better in the future. Then we also want to engage you, get some feedback from you, because I think that's the most important part. We want to build better solutions, so we need your feedback on this, and then I'll have some more information for you how we further proceed. So, transformation is, I think, a topic that we'll all have to tackle. We need to tackle climate change now, for example, but we also need further tools to be able to do that. Organizations are sometimes lacking tools. We personally are lacking tools on how we can change ourselves. And what we also need is we need to win hearts. We need to get people on board, and this is what we're trying to do with the solutions that we will develop in this program. This is our project. We will try to help organizations, people, to move from attitude to action. And this in 3 areas, and we have, I think, great teams working on this. First one, a team working on the inspiration topic. You need to inspire people, you need to win people's hearts, as I said. The second topic, education. If you win people's hearts, then you also need to provide them and enable them to have the relevant knowledge to deal with this topic of sustainability. Totally new for a lot of organizations. And also getting into the activation, doing the right action now. In all of these 3 areas, we have teams pitching their ideas to you later on. And of course, we have also, again, great corporate partners supporting us, because this is the crux. You can't do it alone. You need to engage. It's a cross-sectional topic. Everyone has to deal with this, and you need to bring different people to the table. Young creative minds, established corporations with experiences, such as PreZero, Kaufland, Procter & Gamble, Deutsche Bank, the ESMT, Handelsblatt Media Group, Brightpoint, High Technologies, and our venture fund, Future Capital. So with their help, we will try to bring these ideas to life. And we also have down here, like in all our missions, in all our 6 past missions, we also have supporting partners like the initiators, Bain & Company, Werte-Stiftung, Handelsblatt, who help us strongly along the way. Our teams, you will meet them later on. I will introduce you to them quickly. We have in the team Inspiration, Oriana, Paula, and Selina. In the team Education, we have Florent, Verena, and Matthias. And team Activation, Julius, Donatus, and Sören. But they will introduce themselves later on as well. So to start right into it and get more information, I would like to ask Dr. Tobias Raffel on stage from the Werte-Stiftung, my dear colleague, to present us some valuable insights, I think, that we'll also need throughout the event on sustainable transformation and where we are today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jannis. The doctor is not so important. I'm happy to be here. Welcome, everybody, also on behalf of the Werte-Stiftung. It's great to be here for the kickoff of this mission. And in order to kick off our discussion, I want to share some observations and some challenges on the topic of sustainable transformation. And I hope this works, so I can share some slides. That's just me. I think I need some help. Here we go. And if you could move 2 slides to the front, 5 observations on corporate transformation to sustainability. Let's move to the next slide. What I want to talk about is some ideas of how German companies are tackling the issue of sustainability. And the very first observation really is this topic is hot. Everybody has it on the top of their agenda. And if you asked companies 2 years ago, what is the #1 topic? They would probably say digitalization. If you asked them last year, they would have probably said COVID, Corona. And this year, and this is a study that we are currently doing together with Bain & Company and with the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, we actually asked 20 CEOs, what is the hot topic? And we talked with them about the transformation to sustainability, which is very much on their agenda. They are trying to set up a governance to make sure they can deal with this subject. So we are talking about an important issue today. Next slide, please. What is in the focus of attention of corporates? It is very much climate neutrality. You know that sustainability is a broad topic. There is E, S, and G, environmental sustainability, social aspects, and governance aspects. And the attention today is very much on climate. Also the political discussion, but also the discussion in companies. So goals of when can the companies become climate neutral, and also associated topics like energy efficiency, shifting to green energy, waste reduction, plastic reduction, and all these kind of issues are very much in the focus. But let's not forget, sustainability is about not only the environmental dimension. And now I moved 2 slides to the front, so 1 back, please. Yes, thank you. The transformation to sustainability is not a sprint. We're talking about a marathon. It really takes a long time. And if you look at different sectors, you see that some of them are really having a tough time transforming to sustainability. Think of the steel industry, for example, or the chemical industry, or the airlines. Yeah? In order to become climate neutral, it's quite a long way for them. Whereas some of the service industries, IT, telecom, I would also argue banking and insurance, they still have a long way to go, but maybe it's a little bit easier for them to put some solar panels on the top of their buildings and maybe adjust their car fleet from traditional cars to e-cars. Yeah? But it's a long way. Observation number 4, transformation is really critical to success. We talked to many CEOs and they said, well, we really need to get this right, otherwise we will lose our license to operate. If you don't have customers anymore in the future because your products are not sustainable, then it's hard to survive. And the same is true for the capital markets. If the capital market doesn't finance your activities anymore, you'll probably not survive as a company. On the other hand, many companies are really seeing a lot of opportunities in transforming to sustainability. New business models, new products, new processes, and they're really leading this wave and convincing customers and other stakeholders with new solutions. 5th observation, it really matters who is at the top of the organizations. The tone from the top matters. There are some CEOs that are really enthusiastic about it, and they really persuade you, they are passionate, and they really try to push their organization also on the emotional level. And then there are others, and you see here that we develop different personas. Yeah? You have others that are less emotional, more the sober transformation manager. And in talking to them and seeing how the different companies develop, I think it's really interesting to also look at the very top of the organization and see who is this person, male or female, who is driving the transformation. 5 challenges. The first challenge I would call the transparency challenge, because in order to act, you need to understand where your emissions are. And you probably have heard of the Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions. If you want to reduce your emissions, it's not only about reducing and getting down your direct emission, but also along the value chain, upstream and downstream. And since you're telling me that I have to speed up a little bit, the bubbles on the left, this is a typical consumer goods company. They have most of their emissions of Scope 3, along the value chain. And the right one, this is an energy company. They have most of their emissions as direct emissions coming out of their chimneys. So understanding where the emissions is necessary to then address them. Second challenge, ambiguity. In the transformation, many stakeholders are involved. First of all, the consumers, but also investors, so the capital markets, and regulators, politics. And what we see is that they are pushing transformation on the one hand, but also hindering transformation. Consumers, think of yourselves. You like to buy more sustainable products, but then when you see they are much more expensive, you probably don't buy them anymore. Yeah? The investors ask for ESG, but at the same time, then they look at the quarterly results and don't accept lower margins. And regulators send a lot of incentives, but also have red tape hindering the transformation. So stakeholder management is probably one of the key challenges also in the transformation. Profitability challenge is challenge number 4. How can you organize the transformation in a profitable way? I think in the long run, sustainability and profitability will go hand in hand. But in the short term, they might be conflicting goals. You have to invest in transforming into more sustainable business models. So we talked a lot with the CEOs about what are the challenges here and how they can solve them. The innovation challenge is challenge number 4, I would say, and this is very much the challenge that you are addressing today and the teams are addressing in the next 3 months, because it's really about finding new sustainable solutions. And we need many more solutions. And without coming to all the details on this chart, my main message here is that sustainable innovation is much more complex and much more difficult, because you have to integrate all these aspects of ESG, the Sustainable Development Goals, and look at it from a life cycle perspective. Last but not least, you have to win the hearts of people. If the CEO moves and nobody follows, then there is no transformation. So it's really about winning the hearts of people, inspiring people, and making this a great move with everybody joining. Last chart from my side. In order to address these challenges, we will set up an institute that we will launch at the International Climate Conference COP26 later this year, in order to help companies move along this path. And it's great that we have this mission here and the teams working on these different aspects: inspiration, education, activation, because we think that there will be so many good ideas coming out of this that together we can provide some help on this path of corporates to more sustainability. That's it from my side. Thanks a lot, and back to Jannis.
Thank you very much. Please stay here with me. Thank you very much for all your insights, Tobias. And now we actually want to deep dive on them, because we want to do a panel discussion, and Tobias will also join us in this panel discussion. today. We also have great other guests joining us. One of them also being here, Walter Sinn, please join us on stage, managing partner from Bain & Company. And also joining remotely via our Zoom call, Astrid Teckentrup, Chairwoman and Management Board of Procter & Gamble Germany, and Jörg Eigendorf, Head of Communication and Sustainability at Deutsche Bank. Welcome, you two. Can you hear us? Yes? Very good. All right. So, our panel discussion today. It will be really about learning more about how corporates also think about what Tobias just told us. Really see whether this is also something that the market can reflect on and organizations' opinion on this. As well as also looking further on this particular topic of climate change. Tobias, you told us sustainability and this challenge is more than just tackling environmental goals. E, S, and G are also topics in general to consider. But today we also, later on in the panel, want to look at especially the topic of climate, because COP26, the 26th climate conference in Glasgow this year, is right around the corner. People are looking at the stage, looking at about over 100 leaders coming together and see what action do they come out with. And we want to also understand what organizations like, for example, Procter & Gamble, Deutsche Bank, or Walter, other companies in the market are doing with their part, basically. So maybe starting right away, Tobias, Raffel, thanks again for your insights. Looking at what you have told us, you talked a lot about organizations. Are they prepared for the changes ahead? You talked about changes that are necessary. What would you say?
I would say that companies, not all of them are prepared already, but they are getting prepared. I think this is the time really where we see a lot of development in the companies, getting ready to move from attitude to action, to really transform their companies. And one of the aspects I mentioned already, that many of the CEOs are taking this subject seriously and feeling responsible for it. So the topic is moving up. Then we see that many companies are setting up a new governance, a new structure of dealing with it. So sometimes you have sustainability boards across the departments, across the business units that are being set up. So there's a lot going on. And also when it comes to board remuneration, the bonuses of boards and CEOs, we see that sustainability is also becoming a part of this. So I think they are getting ready, they're getting prepared, there's a lot happening at the moment.
You say they're getting ready and they're starting. Walter, I have you with me here on stage. You talk a lot to different organizations, companies in the industry. What do you think? Where do most organizations have to change? Where should the focus lie? And maybe also, where could they start?
Well, yes, let me first echo Tobias. I was part of the study, and as you rightly say, we lead a lot of discussions with a lot of top managers in Germany and internationally on the topic of sustainability these days. And I can clearly confirm it has totally landed on the agendas. It's crystal clear that everybody needs to move. On the other side, everybody well understands that this is a long-term journey and that we are only at the beginning. And that's what most CEOs also in the study have said. We are at the beginning, right, of a transformation. So you ask me, what does it take to move forward? Well, let me focus on maybe 3 points. The one is all needs to be anchored from the top on science-based targets. So we need to have clear transparency that you mentioned also, Tobias, and translation into targets. Based on that, I think we see a lot of actions happening on an overarching corporate level, but the link to business strategy, assume a global company with different businesses, the link to the individual strategies need to take place. That here we are still relatively far away. And ultimately, as every huge change management effort, when it is about changing behaviors, this needs to be really anchored at the top. So it's clearly leading from the front. CEOs need to drive, moderate, run, all the effort. That's absolutely critical.
Great, thank you very much. Astrid, with you joining us remotely, we have one of these leaders in our panel group, right? How do you change? How do you plan to become more sustainable personally, but also at Procter & Gamble? Are you pushing socially as well, or only environmentally?
I think we have a long tradition of actually looking at sustainability, both from a social and from an ecological standpoint. And I think what is most impressive for me at the moment, and you were asking, are companies changing and do they actually have the energy to move forward? What I find most important at the moment is actually to see the incredible amount of energy that we have in our organization to not comply with a law that is changing. We need to do that as well, and governance is a topic. But I think for many people, it's a project that comes from the heart and from the conviction that something needs to be done and that we don't have too much time. And in Germany, our organization is an organization that goes from R&D, so research and development for global brands, so not only for Germany, but also for the globe, to a product supply organization that also influences plants around the world. And what we see are projects that actually touch the initiative master plan, the brand plans for the next few years for many countries around the world. So that's one area where we see a lot of activity, a lot of energy. We see a lot of energy looking at the supply chain and trying to understand how can we make the supply chain net neutral? What does it take to actually do that? And then we have these small projects where people come up every day and say, you know what? We need to do something about our location, about the location that we're in. And we should look at, can we do a gardening project? How can we do the gardening? So it's just a small project, but how can we do the gardening around the building in a very different way? But I think what's so impressive is you see an incredible amount of energy next to all the governance work that is actually going through all functions and is touching the whole organization.
Thank you very much. Astrid, maybe another question. We've learned from Tobias that there are different drivers for sustainability. What do you think? Are you driving this change with Procter & Gamble, or are you being driven? I mean, looking at customers, for example, regulation, where would you position yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, and then I'm taking my view or the view that we have as a company. We see ourselves as a driver in this space. And at the same time, what we know is that we live or work in an ecosystem. And that ecosystem consists of many companies that are very knowledgeable in this area. So what's interesting for us, beyond trying to establish ourselves as a driver in this area, is to actually understand how can we partner with other companies that are very knowledgeable in this space, to come to new ideas and actually see what we can do together to make the world a little better. For example, we have just launched an institution that is actually chartered to look, and I just mentioned it a second ago, that is looking at how can we make our entire supply chain globally net neutral. And that has been launched in Germany because the conviction of our company is that actually Germany is the right place to do this type of work because the ecosystem is so strong and the topic is an important topic. And so apart from being a driver ourselves, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with other companies to actually drive this agenda together forward.
Jörg, now you. I think coming from Deutsche Bank, basically from the financial sector, and I think the financial sector has a special role in this transformation, helping organizations and individuals to become more sustainable. What's your role as a bank, in particular, in this process of transformation? What's your opinion on that?
Thank you, Janis. For our goal is really to drive this change. We are in an industry right now which is in the heart of this transformation, because this transformation needs to be financed. That doesn't only mean we need to finance this via credit, and loans. We need to finance it via bond issuance, via advising our clients, advising them on the taxonomy, advising them on all kinds of issues to help them how do they get from A to B. Because what we see here is that companies are struggling. They need to get an orientation, and we won't just shut them off. We just won't shut them off in financing. I think the NGOs sometimes really exaggerate significantly that they would like to jump and leapfrog from A to B, but leapfrogging is very difficult. We need credible transformation paths, and the financial industry is in the center of that, and that is our task. We invest a lot in deal validation. What does E, S, and G really mean? We look closely at the EU taxonomy. We are coordinating this with the businesses from group sustainability, with risk management. Just the question, for example, what is the carbon footprint of our loan portfolio at the end of 2022 when we have to publish it? It's hugely complex. We need data. It changes the dialogue. So for us as a bank, it has moved into the center of our thinking, of our strategy. It has been management priorities since the summer of 2019. And I can only say that I feel permanent tailwind. From 2016, when I joined Deutsche Bank, to 2019, it was like playing Don Quixote and having headwinds all the time. Since 2019, it's tailwind. Everybody moves, and I can only subscribe to everything that has been presented and said. You need to win the heart of the people. I think that is very important for us as banks. It's not that important what is our carbon footprint. We are carbon neutral since 2012. For Procter & Gamble, it's a complete different game to be carbon neutral in their own operations. For us, it is really, what do we finance? What is the carbon footprint of what we finance? How do we advise our clients? How do we move our clients from A to B? And being in the center of that and really working closely with our clients on these issues, and that changes the client dialogue. And this is a huge opportunity, because we talk a lot about the challenges, but there are lots of opportunities, and we are here to take these opportunities. As has been said, Walter has said that. Does it turn into an opportunity? Yes, it does. And once it is an opportunity, it's much easier.
Thank you very much, Jörg. You said it's totally different for you to change than, for example, for Procter & Gamble. Tobias said in his speech the same. Sustainability is not a sprint. It might be harder also for different industries. Walter, what are these industries where you think it's a little bit harder to change? Where do you see it in the market? And since it's not a sprint, but we all know that we need to gain speed, what would you say? How can these organizations gain speed in the transformation?
Yeah, let me take the two questions. The first one around industries. Look, I would say the most challenged industries are those where you can expect first the most disruption potential in their own business model. And the second aspect is where the most dependencies are with clients, suppliers, so we need to deal with the outside. And that points then on industries like energy, chemicals, the automotive industry. I mean, those are severely touched in the need for really changing the own business model. And there's a reason why those are, from my perspective, a bit front-running also activities and need to act. Others are a bit less touched, not meaning that they have time to wait for. Which brings me to the second question on how to do a sprint or how to accelerate. Acknowledging that we talk about a long-term journey. It depends a bit on on the individual company situation, but I would say there are two aspects that I see in many organizations that could be a bit of an accelerator. The one is first create full transparency on carbon footprint. We really, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, be really clear on that. And it's not yet there, right, in a lot of companies, but that gives enormous push, this insight and transparency. And the second one is all around how to establish structurally sustainability in the organization, meaning governance, steering processes, KPIs up to incentives. From all experiences, on top of all needed change management, but that's a quick driver for change.
Thanks a lot. Next to structural changes, Jörg, also you said winning people's hearts, and Tobias, you said the same in your keynote. What do you think? What do you mean by people's hearts, Tobias? Where have you seen organizations out there or people out there who have done a great job there, where you were really impressed and said, well, that's how you win people for sustainability?
Well, first of all, I think it's great that we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
That heartprint is important, that it's important to win people for this long journey of transformation. And I think there are lots of examples of inspiring leaders who show their organizations that it's about a positive transformation. I think for me it's important that we look at sustainability in a positive way, that we have a positive narrative. It's not so much about it costs a lot, we have to change our behavior, we cannot fly to the EBS Symposium anymore, we have to take the train, whatever that means. But it's a positive development with lots of opportunities, and this is what Jörg Eidendorf said. So looking at this in a positive way, I think what pushes us as those who are a little bit the older generation are really the young generation. I mean, in lots of the discussions that we had also, the CEOs mentioned it's the young employees, it's those who come from universities that bring in all this enthusiasm, this emotion and inspiration to change, and that they're really demanding change. So I think there's a lot of people, especially the young generation, and I don't know if you need to mention the Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. I mean, she, of course, inspired a lot of young people, but also in the corporate world, there are so many examples of leaders. And I think in order to actually get this heartprint going, it's important that everybody understands what impact you can have as an individual. So when we do workshops on sustainability, for example, we always use a tool that is the personal carbon footprint tool. So we calculate for ourselves, what is my footprint? And does it come from eating a lot of meat or from flying planes or whatever? So make it very concrete and understand what each and individual's contribution is. I think this is inspiring, and then you reach the hearts of people and make sure that everybody feels it's also their behavioral change that really makes a difference.
Great. Astrid, I want to switch the topic a little bit, because Tobias was talking about so many different things, so many different challenges. He was also talking about an ambiguity challenge across, for example, customer behavior, investor demands, or regulation measures, where, for example, customers say, on the one hand, I want to buy sustainable, but I might not if it goes beyond a certain price, for example. Same goes for regulation, that maybe is hindering on the one hand, but also pushing on the other hand. So what's your view on this? Do you see this? Have you had examples like this at Procter & Gamble, where you say, yeah, I've observed this, and how did you deal with it?
I think the nature of what we're doing every day is to achieve targets which are seemingly controversial. So there are decisions where you say, can I drive the top line a little bit, and what does it do to my bottom line? And how does it impact cash? And so already today, when we look at the work that we're doing, we have to somehow see how do we get all these different KPIs, actually, how can we achieve them and get a good balance of all three of them? Sustainability has come on top of that. And so it's making this triangle, or it's now presenting probably something that is a little more rectangular. And we will need to make sure that, again, we will balance all the different objectives that we have. I think what's important for us on this journey is to actually be as transparent as possible. And what do I mean by that? We have yesterday launched our net zero commitment for 2040 and have specified also interim objectives for 2030. We have put a very clear set of KPIs with this commitment in order to make sure that we can hold ourselves accountable, but that also others, consumers, other stakeholders can hold us accountable. And we have launched an ESG portal where you can see the climate transition action plan that we have put behind this commitment. And now actually we are transparent with what we're doing. And so we think that transparency, especially when we think about regulators, when we think about consumers, when we think about customers, is a very important measure to make sure that we can balance the different KPIs that we have. Other than that, the decisions that need to be made, we actually need to find out how we want to balance them.
Thanks a lot. And Jörg, another challenge Tobias talked about was the profitability challenge, meaning that there might be a trade-off between sustainability and profitability. Is that something you see as well? Is that changing? Was that like that? Is it still like that? How do you see it for the future?
If you look at my responsibility, for example, as being responsible for the strategy, but also for the group sustainability team, which is validating these deals, you can think really about sticks and carrots here. And in the past years, until I would say 2020, it was a lot with our policies and commitments we had written in group of sustainability, and with the deal validation behind it, we often had to say no to certain deals where we said this doesn't work. So that meant revenue is always a tough fight. Now we see that there are not only there are these huge opportunities, and our business people see these huge opportunities, and that makes a big difference because they understand much better now what opportunity lies there, and when the carrot gets bigger, then the stick can get bigger too. Let's be pragmatic. You can be idealistic and say, oh, you should not finance these businesses anymore and whatever, but it is much tougher in a global organization with more than 20,000 client-facing people to permanently say no, or to hand them also over certain opportunities, and that was so important that we had our sustainability deep dive in May, which we called From Ambition to Impact. It's a little bit like attitude to action. Yeah, we say we aren't there yet with the impact, but we need to have very ambitious, and that is a huge opportunity. It was a growing opportunity. It's much easier to be tougher, and as we all have agreed upon, this won't work with saying no all the time. This will only work with innovation, which needs to be financed, with tough and clear rules, a rule framework for all of us, with strong advice, with the ability to change the world together and get less reliant on CO2 emissions, on carbon energy, and to move very, very quickly with innovation into this new world. Without innovation, we won't make it. If we stay where we are right now, we won't make it. We need that innovation, and that's an opportunity again. So this is a long story to what you just said. The growing carrot makes it much easier to have a much tougher stick.
Thanks a lot. I think that's a great call for action. We need innovation. Hopefully we can also play a part in this with the solutions that we provide throughout these programs. Jörg, I want to change the topic a little bit and focus on climate and the climate issue furthermore. I said in the beginning, COP26 is right around the corner, and I know that you're doing something there. So with Deutsche Bank, how important is this conference for you, and how will you contribute to it?
We think of it as hugely important. I mean, COP26 says it all. It's the 26th meeting of this kind. And we have not come to this action which we need. And this needs to change. I interviewed on our client conference, the European Fixed Income Conference last week, Mark Carney, who organizes COP26. It was fascinating to talk with him. And he expects really a revolution in our management of this transition. And so we need to be part of that. We do something together with the Werte-Stiftung also, with Scheffler, which is also involved. We will have an urban zero night there. We will have a lot of engagement, also talking about what are the measurements we need, what are the KPIs we need to follow, because if we follow the wrong metrics, we will all might be successful in our view, but eventually the world doesn't get cleaner. All of these things need to be discussed. We all come together, and there's one point, when I stop on that, but the one point which makes me optimistic. The elite has understood, and almost all governments, or I can't talk about all, but the modern governments, the modern companies, rich people also, they all have understood it needs to change. There is no safe place on earth if we continue like we are doing it right now. And this change, I think, is in mindset is extremely important and makes me optimistic that we will collaborate, innovate, and work ourselves out of it.
Thanks a lot. Astrid, what's your agenda for COP26? How do you support the fight, let's say, against climate change? As a global player, I mean, you have probably impact around the whole world, and maybe also, but coming also from Germany, what's your impact on Germany in this case?
Yeah, what I think is exciting, and that's building on what has just been said, what's exciting is that probably with this meeting coming up, or with this summit coming up, we will see most of the participants actually driving, not one agenda, but at least driving towards one goal. And the agendas will be different probably, but it's one goal that we're trying to achieve together, because we have understood that we need to make a change in order to get to a better world. Our contribution to that will be our Mission 2040, to be greenhouse gas net neutral by 2040, and trying to actually meet and talk to as many potential partners around the meeting in Glasgow, to find new ideas, to find possibilities to accelerate our agenda, is for us the most important thing as we're working towards that.
Now, Walter, 26th conference, probably like we've heard that we haven't had enough action now. What's your opinion? What do you think? What can we expect coming out of this conference? What's the outcome?
Well, I wouldn't be too optimistic in the sense of we've seen many conferences already. But there's an interesting dynamic. Therefore, I hope my expectations get beaten with COP26 this time, and it will be on the political level about aligning on the key targets, action plans, frameworks, particularly important regulation, because I'm persuaded that all companies in all countries need clear frameworks, hopefully consistent regulations, in order to do the necessary large investments, right, under the most certain framework conditions. On the company level, I must say I'm even more excited for COP26 because I see, like Astrid and Jörg have laid out, a lot of also initiatives that goes cross-sector, companies working together, developing new ideas. That's very interesting and creates a strong momentum moving forward. That's my biggest hope and most pragmatic hope for COP26.
Great. Tobias, you also said you're doing something for COP26. We want to basically built also together an action tank, as you called it, or an institute, action-oriented institute. Why do you think we need this now?
Well, I think, as I said in my remarks, now is really the time for action. I think the awareness is there that we need to do something. The tools, many tools are there, but it's really about now starting the action. And if I think about COP26, it's an international conference, so people, politicians, corporates from all over the world come together. And if I had a wish to the outcome of the conference, it would really be that we can form a climate club of Europe, the United States, and China, together fighting climate change, because it's a global problem. We can come up with solutions and change our own behavior. At the end of the day, it's really a global challenge that we need to solve all together. And with these great initiatives, and many of us will be there, interacting with lots of stakeholders, I hope that we can be a little bit part of this and help a little bit.
Thank you very much. You already formulated one of your wishes. I also want to ask the others. What's your wish from COP26, if you could choose? As well as we also have 3 great teams, as I mentioned earlier, today, presenting some solutions. Not only talking about regulation, but also talking about innovation. What would be your advice to them? They're later on stage, or next up on stage, for now and for the program. Maybe in starting with Walter, what's your one wish and what would you say to the teams for the program?
I keep it short.
Short, yeah.
There is my wish for COP26 is coming to alignment and action. Yeah. My wish to the teams, I guess they are they're there, coming almost very soon on stage. Look, dear teams, I wish you a fantastic journey here on the mission. You should have, fun and bring in all your curiosity and passion. And from all experiences over the last 6 cycles we have done this mission, you will experience and you should play on the power of teaming. Your team, but also teaming with the corporate partners that are willing to support you to develop really convincing ideas. That's the power of teaming in the mission.
Astrid, what's your wish and what's your advice?
Yeah, and probably nothing else in terms of the wish. How can we get to action? How can we drive action and do something together in order to make sure that we use the little time that we have to actually make a change, make a difference? In terms of recommendation for the teams, have fun, but also try and focus as much as possible. Sustainability is an extremely broad topic. And what we've seen in previous missions that we've done together is the more you're able to actually pinpoint what you're trying to solve for, the better the solution will be at the end. We've had wonderful examples in previous collaborations. And if that works again this time, I think we'll again celebrate the outcome of this in a field that is incredibly complex.
Thank you very much. Jörg, last but not least, your wish and your advice. Sorry, we can't hear you.
My wish, sorry for that, it must happen in each conference. My wish for COP26 is that we get to more tangible targets and people reliably commit to it, and they are so transparent that we can follow if they stick to their commitment. I think this is very important, and that we get to the right metrics and tools, and we can agree on these metrics and tools, which would be very important. Leapfrog in the standard setting. That's wish number 1. For the team is, I would say, be ambitious, think the impossible, and make it true. That's what I would really ask you to. Don't limit yourself with any things, but be absolutely ambitious. We need ambition, and we need to come from ambition to impact.
Jörg, beautiful last words. Thank you very much. Thank you also, Astrid, Walter, Tobias on stage. I think those were some great insights, and we're setting pretty well the stage for the teams now, because I was identifying we agree on one thing, on a lot of things actually, but especially on one thing, which is action. We need to act now, and hopefully the teams can present some ideas that help organizations do that better in the future. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
The sweet stuff, pitches. So we've started last Thursday together with the teams. They were seeing each other for the first time. We've worked together with them, also together with Bain & Company. We're coaching. What's happening here? Fresh air. And we're starting to work on our ideas. Initial problem statement formulation, initial solution, and really hard working to come up with an initial idea that they can present to you today, and then develop further with the great corporate partners we have on board to actually develop solutions that make an impact in the end. So some photos that you can see here. Tobias also had a session on sustainability. Bain were introducing themselves. That is Nick. Nick is sitting here in the front, coaching the teams also on a regular basis. And those are the teams. You don't see them, you haven't seen them here on stage. They're sitting over there, and now you will see them pitch. So to be honest, the last 5 missions, we've had a lot of teams pitching, and most of them had to do it in a digital studio, in front of a camera. And I just say, this is so much fun standing on stage again. So I'm telling you, embrace it, have fun, and hopefully you'll get nice feedback afterwards. One more thing, we will also want to ask you for your feedback. We will have a Slido with some questions for you. Please listen to all the pitches first, and then we'll have a feedback session afterwards and see also how the different teams rank in terms of these questions. Which will be, which idea will create the most sustainable impact? Which idea would you like to come alive? And the third question is, which idea is the most viable? To get an initial feeling on how you think about it. And maybe you also have other questions that you can later on then ask in the feedback sessions directly here in the room, or also via Slido. This is a QR code. You can scan it right now, but you will also be able to scan it later. I quickly leave it on. And now the first team. Team inspiration. Really thinking on how we can inspire people, how do we understand people in our organization. And for this we have Oriana, Paula and Selina, and I would actually like to welcome Paula and Selina on stage to give the presentation.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, short reminder, please wear your masks while inside. We just opened the window, so it's not that hot for you anymore. But due to the regulations, unfortunately, you have to wear a mask while inside.
Stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome from my side. My name is Paula, and I'm very happy to be here and present you Sustainacy. But before we start, I would like to ask you some questions. The first one is, who of you think that sustainable transformation is key for business success? Please just raise your hand. Seems an important topic, right? And the next question is, who of you could tell me that you have a real and optimal path to achieve that goal? You have one. Okay, so thank you very much. At the end of the presentation, I hope that we have more. So let's get started. When we talk about transformation, it's a cool topic, right? Everybody likes talking about it. It's interesting. But as we just saw, it's not a topic that you really know where to start. If we were to stick to old practices, a company would seek for external advice and basically just look outside the box. But remember that we are here today to discuss how do we embrace change and how do we do that with new ideas. That's why we are here to inspire you to think inside the box. What do we mean by that? We mean look inside your corporation. When you look inside your box, you will find your greatest asset, your employees. And they are the key to know where to start because they are the ones that will tell you what's the situation of your company. So how do we get the answers? For that, Sustainacy envisions a digital assessment tool that involves your employees, their ambitions, their actions, and what their motivation is. So basically, a digital assessment tool can provide insights, but not just provide a report. It will also provide recommendations that will close the gap between corporate ambitions and actions, so that at the end of the day, your company will achieve positive business impact. Let me show you how it looks like. Maria is the head of supply chain management, and she has committed with the management board as an example to achieve net zero. But she doesn't really know where to start. She doesn't know how to engage her teammates. But she's very happy because Sustainacy exists. So now, with the tool, Luca and Antonia can, on the one hand, know which sustainability type they are, and Maria can know how do they react, how she can motivate them to act. But on the other hand, they can also discover their corporate print so that they know which actions to take based on their actions. So this is how we envision the product that the employees can use. And this is one of the values that we provide to corporations. In this case, Maria will not only know the interests of her employees, but also the level of engagement. And because the tool goes beyond that, she will know right away which actions are the quick wins and the first one to implement so that she can close the gap.
So basically, by doing this, we can create a win-win-win situation. Because by looking inside the box, so focusing on your employees, you can engage them in the whole process. You can make them understand what is going on, and you make them really motivated to be part of that transformation. So, in other words, you can win over their hearts. But they also benefit in another way, because you will get to know their real attitudes and their real ambitions, so you can act on that and make that they are very satisfied at work with all the benefits that come with that. So basically, you start from the individual, and then the whole transformation splits over to the entire company. But therefore, it is very key to understand where you're standing at the moment. And that's what we are here for. So basically, if you get the first step wrong, the whole process is going to be biased, as we were showing you earlier on. So this is why it's so important to understand where you are. And through including all the employees, you can really align the transformation through all employment levels. And we, as Sustainacy, we provide a tool that is industry-specific, and we also give you tailored recommendations based on your company, on the different type of workers that you have, and the different working styles. So, in a nutshell, we transfer these insights into actionable knowledge. And how are we going to proceed? So, as you heard earlier, we had like 1 week to prepare this. In the following months, we want to engage in user research and create a prototype. And then we want to come up with a solid business plan and also to find a partner to do this. So also, I hope you're interested, and then I would invite you to talk to us after this presentation also. And in 2022, we want to establish the product and then scale it the year after. And here you can see our team. So Paula, who spoke to you earlier on, she is responsible for our business development. Oriana, who is in the audience today, she's our sustainability expert. And I myself, I'm responsible for behavioral science. And as you can see, we have very different backgrounds, and this allows us to really have an interdisciplinary approach where we understand, okay, how does a company actually work? What do we want to achieve in terms of sustainability, and how can we get from there? So if you're interested in our idea, our team, I invite you to talk to us after the presentation or to contact one of us with the emails that you can see there. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to the discussion.
Is it working? Yes. Thanks a lot, Paula and Selina, and also Oriana sitting in the crew. Great presentation. I think we've also learned a lot, and we've come to understand a certain way forward on where we can start inspiring people, understanding people in our organization better to incorporate that in our decision making. Thanks a lot. Now to the next team. I'm very happy to have Matthias with me on stage. Matthias will represent Team Education with Verena and Florent. And you will talk us through about how we can also bring employees on board and enable them, empower them, as well as educate them. So the stage is yours. Good luck.
Well, thank you.
Oh.
Awesome presentation by Selina and Paola. Already really inspired by that. But now we are coming to the education part. So I'm really happy to be here, really honored to have the chance to present you our idea. I truly believe that all of you have their heart on the right place. And I also truly believe that you're very keen on get that sustainable transformation going, right? But companies fail to achieve their sustainability targets. There's a real gap between the intention and the implementation in that. So how can we solve that? And why is that the problem? This is the questions we asked ourselves. Because according to the study, more than 0.5% of the 500 world largest companies fail to achieve, fail on their ability to implement the environmental, social, and governance indicators which create a multidimensional value in their company. And therefore, we created Resolvert to tackle this, to tackle what's behind it. So the problem that we encountered, that we explored, is that employees are not taking sustainable business decisions. But why is that so? What is behind that? Why can't they really create that multi-dimensional value? Well, we explored that motivation, knowledge, and implementation are the three key elements we have to focus on and we have to tackle. To get in regard to sustainability, don't get me wrong, I think like all of your employees really have motivation, knowledge, and knows how to implement that knowledge in their field of expert. But in fields of sustainability, there's still a lack, and we want to face that lack. And how do we do that? I'm going to present it now, and we want to make it more tangible. So let's meet Oliver. Oliver is a pretty good guy at his company. He knows his field, he has expert in his field, and he works currently at the sales department. So, but then he received a call from a customer. So, yeah, hey Oliver, how you doing? Have you heard about that sustainability thing? Yeah, well, Oliver, yeah, I heard about it, but still not into that topic that much. Well, do you have any offers for me? Can you give me some knowledge, some advantages, what we have? Can you provide me something about it? Well, because Oliver is kind of really busy with what he's doing right now, he not really has motivation to do that, and also is lacking of knowledge to provide a correct and good answer to give him to give him that value he needs and the knowledge he wants for his customer. So how do we solve that? We want to solve that by providing a gamified business simulation. And this gamified business simulation sets the employee of that customer into a virtual reality. In this virtual reality, for example, Oliver faces then different challenges and tasks that he could encounter also in real life. And business simulation is the tool that we use, and gamification is the mechanism that we use here. So Oliver then faces this challenge in this virtual company, and then he can decide either what decision he's going to take. The decision then in virtual reality has different outcomes, depending what kind of decision he's going to take. Can be a good one or it can be a negative one. In regards to the multi-dimensional value. So you may ask yourself, how do we differentiate us from others on the market? There are already like a lot of e-learning platforms. You may already deal with a lot of e-learning platforms. Also you as students, we as students did that. Was not always that kind of good. You know, you had your class, it was like kind of, whoa, kind of boring lecture or course. So we do it differently by providing motivation, knowledge, and implementation. Motivation. But the question is, how do we get that? How do we implement that? So we increase motivation through communication, visualization, and reward. We increase knowledge by active learning and rewarding. And also, we increase implementation through business simulation, right? Those three characteristics are important to get the knowledge, the implementation, and the motivation going for the employee to face that sustainable business decision. So at the end, after going through our virtual company, Oliver now has the motivation, has the knowledge about sustainability, and he knows how to implement it into his daily business decisions. And so at the end, he is in his field kind of like an expert for this. So what can be then your benefits? Now Oliver, when we take his as an example, increased, for example, credibility by providing, by satisfying his customer, by providing knowledge, by providing the right knowledge, by making the right decision. Also, he increased the return on the investment for his company. He he did the right decisions in regard to sustainability, and also he had, by making the right decisions, the chance to reduce the CO2 emissions by taking the right actions. We are Florent. He's responsible for the software development and the digital strategy. We are Verena. She's responsible for the sustainable business development and the marketing. And me, Matthias. I'm responsible for business development and finance. And we together as a team really want to take you on that journey to make that sustainable transformation happen and resolve that transformation and really do that by your sustainable heart together. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Matthias. I can already imagine myself using your game or playing your game and start learning by doing more and more about sustainability and how I have to apply this in my daily business decision making. So thanks a lot for that. Now, last but not least, we have a third team coming up. I can see you already here standing. Team 3, Team Activation, which really look into how companies can take the right action with a pretty specific case, but I won't spoil us. So Julius will tell you, and together with Julius, we also have Donatus and Zurun sitting in the crowd. So all the best of luck to you, and the stage is yours.
Hello together, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to the two previous teams and their great ideas. I'm Julius and I'm presenting for Greenvest. So you all know and have seen this picture, right? These are the Sustainable Development Goals, and they're just not any colorful, beautiful looking tiles. They're the global agenda to reach goals like affordable and clean energy, zero hunger, or life on land, which every country, every state, every company, and even every individual should have committed to. But when should we, as a global community, achieve these goals according to the UN? In exactly 2030. So we have 8 years, 3 months, and 16 days left. And as you all can see, there's not so much time left. But of course, we don't want and can't solve all these challenges ourselves. But we want to do our part. And what is one of the biggest drivers behind that change? Of course, it's investments, because all the money we're investing and will invest will set the course for a future worth of living or not. But inside that, there are a lot of challenges. So the normal process would be like we have regulation, and right regulation is always a driver for innovation. And based on these regulations, investors are looking for innovative solutions that could become the companies of tomorrow. But there are two crucial problems. So the first one is sustainable policy interventions like the taxonomy are increasing. And the second one is that the investors can't find the right startups, so there's a disconnect between that. And that's why it's one of the most important things that the investors align with the regulations and the right innovations get the help and money they need to solve the problems we are all facing. But is it really the case? Is it invested in sustainable solutions which solve the problems now? We are not sure, and it's still unclear. So, to summarize, we are facing a problem. Imagine if you're an investor and you're asking maybe like 3 questions. Which startup is really sustainable? On which rating my decision should be based on? And the third one would be, how do I comply with all the regulations like the taxonomy, which I already talked about? And that's why we need us. That's why we need Greenvest. And that's why we need a holistic data-driven impact ESG tool. So we want to help investors find the right decisions by screening and identifying the right startups and evaluating that with their business model. And then, of course, the most important thing is the action. We want to activate that screening, really back the investor's decision to invest and to make a real impact with a customizable ESG rating platform. So, how do we help investors to find the right startups? First, with a sustainability evaluation through an automated materiality assessment, linking it with the SDGs and the taxonomy alignment. Then we are screening this ESG data with a step-by-step holistic approach. Then we rate this data according to sustainability standards and the requirements of the investor. And then there will a lot of coming features like benchmarking, risk analysis, and portfolio analysis. So let's look at the structure behind that. For startups, we are providing a digital tool for evaluating the sustainability in their business model through materiality assessment, rate and report the business model, and especially the team behind that. And then for the investors, we provide a digital tool to screen the platform ESG data with individual investor requirements, which include portfolio analysis, taxonomy alignment, ESG reporting, and continuous improvement. So we really contribute and reducing or even avoiding the risk for investors and companies to invest sustainably. Through the power of data-driven solutions and analytics, we empower to make sustainable decisions. And you're all maybe asking, how does our platform look like? So let's just jump into it. You can see the startup graphics, where you can see the sector, the company stage, the location, some small business description, and you can also see the materiality metrics, which they have done with our automated tool, the top 5 topics rated on the SDGs, and then some outstandings about these startups. In the right corner, you can see the Greenvest recommendation, which is based on the current sustainability standards. And then we just look at the investor's perspective. So if they disclose it, there will be this data. They're seeing a materiality map of the startup and of the investor's perspective. And you directly can see where they align and maybe where they are lacking. You can also see 3 ratings. The first one I've already talked about. The second one is the investor's rating based on these requirements. And then the taxonomy is the regulation rating, how the startup is aligning with taxonomy and other regulations. You can see also some hard data like the emissions and some soft data like the founder's involvement. So what we really want to do is creating a bridge between investors and sustainable startups by overcoming the lack of ESG data from startups with a step-by-step holistic approach. So how are we going to do that, and what are the next steps? We are doing the customer validation with startups and investors. We are also doing the rating methodology to create or to rate the soft data, especially, which is focused on very early stage startups. We're looking for pilot customers, and then the first prototype will be coming out at the end of the year. So who's going to do that? That's Surin, a certified ESG analyst, responsible for ESG and research. That's Donatus, experienced developer, responsible for tech and product. And then me, responsible for business and sustainability of Greenvest. So really, you can scan the barcode, follow us if you're interested or have any questions. Follow Futury to see the next 3 months and our journey. And thank you for listening. I will be pleased to answer your questions. Thank you. Back to Jannis, I guess.
Can you quickly take that? Thanks. Thanks a lot, Julius, for the great presentation. You were last but not least. Don't run away, exactly. I looked a little bit on the time, so we won't have a huge feedback session, but a small one. So maybe I can also ask the other teams to join me on stage again, so we have maybe you as well, that we can have at least one question per team, as well as we can use all the space. We just need to make the barcode available. Please scan it, give the teams feedback on how they performed. And while this is working or running, I would like to ask the audience, maybe starting right at the last pitch, if there is a question to Julius. Alexander.
So my question would be, as you have said that you put your risk analysis in the 4th part, why not put it at a 2nd place after you have looked whether the target investment fits your ESG goals, then have a look at the risk, so you can then give out a rating that says, okay, this company is a AAA rating, being 100% sustainable by giving us above 15% return per year. So the investors can just see, okay, these are these companies, these 25 companies that I want to put my investment in.
Is it on, or should I just speak loud? It's 5. The microphone 5? Okay. Yeah. So I think that was just wrong on the slides because there were some transformation issues. But this risk indicator will be coming out later. We will concentrate on to really rate the soft data of early stage startups and like really get some data when there is no hard data like the emissions or something. And the risk indicator will be coming out, I don't know. It's just a coming feature.
Thanks a lot. Maybe a question for Paula and Selina. Team 1. No questions? Not at all? In the Slido? Were there any in the Slido, Laura? If not, then we can also engage later. I mean, we are here all day, so if you have any feedback or stuff like that, please feel free to join them. What about Matthias and Team 2? Any questions? No questions. Any on SolveMate? Yeah? Microphone?
What would be the biggest challenge to make people actually use your tool?
Yeah, so we thought about that a lot, to use that tool, how to do that, because it kind of relates to the initial steps to get the motivation of the employee to use that tool, and we want to overcome that by the gamification process, which is a reward system in that case. Really want to have them to get the motivation through reward. For example, this reward could then look like a digital token within our platform, and this digital token can then be, for example, exchanged into a real value, which, I don't know, depends on the company and their policy. Could be a vacation or weekend trip and whatsoever, but yeah, there's definitely this reward system.
Or additional trainings to even further proceed, right? Cool. All right, thank you very much. I think we have had enough time. Please stay with me here on stage to look at the results on how you voted on the questions. Actually, I think you need to put them on the screen now, the results. There we have them. So for the first question, which impact will create the most sustainable impact? Team 3 won with regards on this question. The second one, which idea would you like to come alive? Also Team 3, performing quite well. What about the third one? Which idea is the most viable? Also Team 3. All right, so I think we have still a lot of work to do over the next month. You as well. I know this idea is not so easy how it looks like. We'll have to engage a lot with the corporate partners on how to bring this to life, and also together with the other two teams, we will make this happen. So maybe a quick outlook that you see how we will continue this program. Together with the teams, we will go through different stages now. This was the kickoff, so the very first time the idea was presented. And now the working starts. The initial idea has been set. We will engage with the corporate partners, also a lot of them sitting here today, to bring these ideas to life, really build prototypes, test them with users, and build business models around it so we can actually implement them later in companies. The interim pitch will be on the 27th of October, and the final pitch will be in the beginning of December. So hopefully by then we know how we will proceed further with these great initial ideas. Thank you very much from my side for you being here. For me, it was a pleasure to actually do this in person and not digitally, as well as, of course, to the teams for the great pitches. Such short amount of time, I think, great performance. As well as, of course, our corporate partners, who, without them, this wouldn't have been possible. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll continue to engage with us. All the best and have fun at the other events of the EBS Symposium.